nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just think it's always good just to establish a purpose, and just we're here for the purpose of assisting the borough with the creation of a comprehensive plan. Thank you everyone for coming. Jody, you weren't here last week.
Oh, yeah.
We all had an opportunity to introduce ourselves
My apologies.
and to give a little bit of a background of how we relate to the citizens of Columbia. So, would you
Okay.
like to do that?
So my name's Jody Eck, and on both sides of my mother's side and my father's side, we go very far back in Columbia. So I read earlier the article that you had about neighborhoods, and it kind of touched me because I thought of the neighborhood I grew up in at 5th and Cherry, but the anchor that was my great-great-grandmother had started a corner store there. But, talking about my family, how deeply ingrained we are in this town, and I was just honored to be asked to be a part of this, because there are two types of people in Columbia: people that see everything that's wrong with it, and people that see potential. And I've always said this, and if Cleaver here, he would tell you this: I always see potential. Life is perspective and how you look at things. There's a lot of potential in this community, and we're finally tapping into it and utilizing that. We are not Lidditz, we are not Lancaster, we are Columbia, and we need to play to that. So I'm very passionate about that, and this is such a great idea. I'm honored to be here, and I also teach for the Columbia Borough School District. So I've been there 20 years.
Well, thank you
Yes.
for joining us.
Thanks.
Okay, the minutes of our January 19th meeting were distributed via email. Does anyone see any corrections that you feel need to be made? Okay, then if there are no corrections, then I would like to say that the minutes are approved as distributed. And at this time, I'll turn the facilitation of the meeting over to Jessica.
Thanks. Jody, for your benefit, my name is Jessica Fieldhouse.
Okay.
I'm a planner working with C.S. Davidson, who is the borough's borough engineer.
Okay.
So I'm here just facilitating the process moving forward. All right, so for this evening, two primary tasks that we have on hand. I have a brief video of 25 minutes that I want to show to everybody. I was going to try and trim it down into a separate presentation, but really, even though it's 25 minutes, it is a really great video explaining what the difference is between a traditional comprehensive plan and an implementable comprehensive plan, and there is a difference. And implementable comprehensive plans is the direction that most of Pennsylvania is going in. And real briefly, I think that's important because the traditional comprehensive plan is a great process to go through when your community is just starting out with the planning process, and this is sort of a new theme for that community. But the borough has done so much planning that I really feel that the implementable comprehensive plan is the right place to go. And the reason I feel that it's an implementable plan cuts down on the background studies, because we've already done so much of it. Demographics are important, but our geology isn't going to change. Soils isn't going to change. For the most part, our land use is what our land use is, with a couple of tweaks. So I think it's important to go over that, because that's really going to be the outline I think that we should follow. And then second to that, we do have large neighborhood maps here. I think that Barb said with the information that she passed out, there are a couple of things that we should be putting on the maps, and we just want to go through. I have some questions here on the agenda that we can jot down. And what we're really trying to do is get a really full, comprehensive look, at least to the best of our abilities here. We will have to go out and talk with others in the neighborhood, but we want to get as much of a comprehensive look as the resources and assets and issues that we have in our residential neighborhoods. Okay? So with that, just a little bit of a housekeeping item. Jody, I can send you a link to this so that you can get caught up. But for everybody from last month, I shared the presentation where we pulled together all of the previous planning exercises. The process I followed for the items that I put into that presentation that were linked on the website, I only put in planning documents that were formally approved by whichever entity commissioned them. For Columbia Borough, there's a ton of planning work that's been done that never, I don't know if it was rolled into another plan that was adopted, or if it was just a process that was started and stopped. So what I'm doing with Deb now is pulling together all of those informal planning documents, and we'll get those all into your binders. I just didn't want to put them on the website yet until we decided as a group that yay or nay, this is something that we want to put up there. So does anybody have any concerns or questions before I roll into this? Okay. So this is a video, like I said, about 25 minutes long. It was done by DCED, a gentleman by the name of Denny Pucco, who is no longer with DCED. I think he's now consulting privately, but he was with DCED for maybe 15, 20 years or so, right? And he really started and championed this process with a couple of other consultants in the state.
Yes, because
Yes.
for those not familiar, DCED is the Department of Community
And Economic Development.
Development.
Yep, thank you. And anytime I throw in jargon, I don't mean to, but please correct me. Thank you very much,
I know
Mary.
some do know that.
The Local Government Academy is a nonpartisan, independent nonprofit with the mission to promote excellence in government. Today, we're joined by
Is that
Zach
loud
Pico,
enough?
who is
Can
going to
everybody hear
speak
it?
to us about the implementable.
Is it too loud for you guys over there?
Greetings, folks. This is Denny Pucco. I'm a planner with the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. And I have the pleasure today to do a presentation on comprehensive plans, particularly the new and exciting implementable comprehensive plan approach. Municipalities pretty regularly use comprehensive plans to plan for their future, to solve problems and put themselves in a position to take advantage of change as opposed to being victimized by it. But too often you hear stories about comprehensive plans that weren't used. They may not even have been adopted despite municipalities spending thousands of dollars on them. You've all heard the tale, I'm sure, of the proverbial plan that sits on the shelf and collects dust. But what we're going to talk about today is a new approach that will help put your comprehensive plan into a position for you to be more practical, more action-oriented, and to help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. First, let's do a little quick background on comprehensive plans. The comprehensive plan is about these 5 basic things. It's about thinking about the future, creating a vision for your municipality, how you want your ideal character and nature of development to be, doing a reality check, truly understanding what's going on in your community to help position you to take the best steps to the future, understanding what your problems are, what your needs are, what opportunities face you if you took the right steps. Comprehensive plans are about generating ideas then to improve your community. What's the best strategy to attract the investment that we want, to achieve the quality of life that we want? Turning those ideas into actual recommendations, and better yet, actual decisions that your governing body and other partners in your municipality now act on to improve your community. And following all the way through to where you ensure that there's implementation, that there's action from that plan instead of that plan sitting on the shelf. Comprehensive plans have a certain amount of subject matter. It's actually prescribed by law in the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. Comprehensive plans are to deal with land use, housing, transportation, community facilities, natural, historic, and ag resources. Also, they have an option of looking at growth and development and energy conservation. And even though it's not written in the planning code, most municipalities use their comprehensive plan to talk about the best economic development for their future. This is the typical subject matter in comprehensive plans. But again, you hear over and over again, a plan didn't get implemented. It sat on the shelf, it collected dust. We hear that story all too often. And we ask ourselves, why aren't comprehensive plans implemented? And we hear from municipal officials and planners a number of reasons. They include, well, the plan wasn't realistic to begin with. It was too much of a wish list. It wasn't things that we could practically accomplish given the affordability or the capacity of our municipality. Too costly to implement the plan. It wasn't supported. It's hard to believe that a community could go through a process that is often a year to 18 months long to create a comprehensive plan, and then at the end of the line find out that there wasn't support for those recommendations and ideas. Elected officials change, and you find sometimes that where the previous elected officials supported the plan, the next set of elected officials don't support the plan, and implementation stops. These are reasons we have to think about, and we have to think about what we do. There are some proactive steps we can take to overcome these obstacles to create a plan that will be implemented. Also, we want to think about who's responsible for implementation. It always seems to be something that they were supposed to do. They, not us. We want to point the finger sometimes and say, we created the plan, but they didn't implement it. I think we've got to get over that hurdle and all take on, whether we're the planners, professional planners like myself that do help facilitate the planning work, or whether we're the citizens that were involved in some work team, or whether we're the elected officials that adopted the plan at the end of the line. We all have to look ourselves in the mirror and accept accountability for follow-through on that plan. The first thing that we encourage in the implementable plan approach is to think differently. We can't think the old way, the old template that we used to do comprehensive plans. One of the first things to think differently about is that success has to be measured by results. We used to think it was a great plan, it looked great, it was a quality plan, it had ingenious recommendations. If it wasn't implemented, it wasn't a good plan. If there wasn't follow-through, it wasn't a successful plan. Our new benchmark for success has to be that that plan got results. It was implemented. We followed the principles that were laid out in it. The plan actually led to improvements being undertaken in our community. We've got to think differently in terms of where planning starts and stops. Planning is not an end in itself. It's not about preparing a nice book. It's about getting our community from the left side on this slide, where our community is facing problems and needs, and there's opportunities that it can take advantage of, where people are dissatisfied, restless, concerned about the future. And we want to get all the way over to the other side of the slides, where our problems are being solved, our needs are being met, our opportunities are being pursued, and our community is taking action and moving in new directions and making improvements to achieve the vision and values that we all have decided on in our community. Our comprehensive plan's got to go all the way from the left side to the right side. Too often it stops short, and here's our recommendations and ideas, but we don't accept the accountability and we don't build in the ingredients to take it all the way to the point where things are getting implemented. Another way to think differently about a comprehensive plan is we used to focus the old plans on the subject matter. We had a chapter on land use, we had a chapter on housing, we had a chapter on transportation. And it tended to put our thinking into silos where all we thought about was land use, and we didn't understand the relationship of land use to transportation or the economy. Instead, we're now encouraging communities to think about their issues as opposed to the old template of functional elements. Ask questions like, is my community livable? Is my community safe, vibrant, healthy, affordable, sustainable? And when you ask those questions, you're going to get at issues that cut across all of those functional areas, and we'll deal with those functional areas. And it'll deal with them in a way that is more in the mindset of the people that live in our community and the officials that run our community. The old school comprehensive plan was about having a consultant prepare a book. Then we reviewed that book and we submitted that book and we hoped something would happen. It's as old school as the horse and buggy. The new approach is all about the planning. It's not about the writing of the book. Sure, we write a book at the end of the line to capture what we've done, but it's more about meeting, talking, inquiring. Yes, we hire a consultant, just like we did under the old school plan, but that consultant is on board to investigate matters for us and to provide ideas and to help facilitate an engaged process. We grow the process, start involving others, start recruiting people that could be potential partners or resource providers. We conduct work sessions. We don't have meetings where we review a draft plan of a chapter. We have work sessions where we take a problem apart, figure out its root cause, and again, generate ideas and talk about solutions to that problem and the new directions our community can move. We do action planning in the implementable plan. Real, workable, practical action plans that have the step-by-step that the community will need when the consultant's out the door in order to keep going and actually put that plan into motion. We make decisions. It's about making decisions and commitments as opposed to just letting a plan hang we may or may not implement it. We're going to decide through this process to move in new directions and to undertake certain actions. We're going to commit to that. And at the end of it, we'll create a workbook of notes and reports and all these action plans, and we'll put the covers on that, and that will be our comprehensive plan. The old tradition says this: a comprehensive plan is a guide to decisions to be made and actions to be taken after the plan is completed. And there's something odd about a guide. If we're going to start into and spend $10,000, $40,000, $100,000 or more on a comprehensive plan, it will be a guide that we may or may not use. Why are we even starting down that road in the first place? Let's think differently about the implementable plan. In the implementable plan, a comprehensive plan is a record. That book is a record that memorializes what we've done. We've made decisions, we've committed to actions, and we've even initiated some of those actions during the planning process. And we put, again, the two covers on it and call our comprehensive plan. The planning work started things into motion. It's not like we spent our effort preparing a book that we crossed our fingers and hoped would generate something. I'll talk quickly about the city of Jeanette in Westmoreland County. As a result of the comprehensive plan that they did, they reestablished their planning commission. They started work on a new zoning ordinance. They developed design guidelines for a couple of strategic redevelopment properties. They applied to our agency, DCED, and we gave them a grant for code enforcement and blight tracking software. They developed a new logo and publicity toolkit. And the Pennsylvania Downtown Center is working with them to help create a downtown action plan that DCED paid for. And all of these things occurred before the plan was written. Again, the focus was people got together, people talked and inquired and challenged each other and made commitments toward new goals and ideas. And then afterwards, the consultant team set about writing the plan to memorialize all that work that was done. The focus was on the planning work, not on the writing of the book. Given what we've learned over 10 years of experience and case studies and some research we've done, we believe that there are 5 keys to create an implementable comprehensive plan. I'm going to go through those 5 keys. Key number 1 is a plan has got to focus on a community's real and relevant issues. Again, like I said earlier, don't base your plan on the MPC, Municipalities Planning Code template about land use and housing. I don't know that there would be a citizen that would walk up to an elected official in the grocery store and say, I don't like our housing plan. What they may say is, I'm concerned about the deteriorating conditions of homes in my neighborhood, or I'm concerned that my elderly parents can't afford to live in this community any longer. That's how citizens think, that's how the elected officials think. That should be the focus of a comprehensive plan, not those old silos of functional elements. Right, the second key is, now that we've placed a focus and we've created a focus for our plan, we need to organize our work sessions and organize our document the same way. We want it to be organized on the real issues as officials and citizens think. Again, the chapters are going to be chapter 1, what's our most significant issue and how do we go about solving it? Chapter 2, what's our second most significant issue? And again, not only the chapters are organized that way, but each meeting of our planning commission and advisory committee are work sessions around those issues. Work sessions that help discover, again, what's the root cause of our problem? What are the best ideas to generate that? Let's bring in experts in these various areas to help us build a cadre of good ideas and solutions. Here's a couple of examples. They are small print, but hang with me. This is Dormont's comprehensive plan, table of contents.
And so for those of you that can't see this, I'll read it out because it is difficult to see. But what's interesting here with the table of contents is outside of the introduction, chapter 1 is your home sweet home. Chapter 2 is moving about, bringing in the business, dream green, lead progressively, and zone for the future. So what they're doing is they're taking the topics that were generated that rose to the top, and then just in that graphic, kind of sweeping them all across those mandated sections on existing land use, housing, and so on and so forth that we have to cover. But what we're doing is we're tying it to specific needs of this community.
You'll see a lot of things that don't look like the old municipalities planning code template. You don't see anywhere there land use plan, housing plan. You see things like spiffing up our community, things that are in the words of the people that live in that community. How do we attract business? There's a lot of things that are put into the words of the way the officials and the community members think. Here's a sample of a table of contents for the New Stanton Comprehensive Plan. Anybody that's familiar with New Stanton is a small interchange community on I-70 in Westmoreland County, which for the most part is a truck stop with a couple of hotels and convenience stores. And what the folks in New Stanton said is that, how do we create a there here? And that became a focus area. Again, you don't see here land use plan, housing plan. You see things like, how do we create a there here? How do we provide some real assets and attractions to make people want to live in our community? Here's another table of contents. Again, the focal issues of this community, Pine Township in the North Hills of Pittsburgh, are connectivity and trails, community character and appearance is important to them, their parks and rec are important. Those are the key issues. Those are the chapters of their plan, and those were the focal points of the work sessions that they held. The third key is to devise practical and workable recommendations. You've probably all seen the plan that said our community should revitalize its downtown and stop there. Revitalize it how? How do we get that done? What are the steps that we need to take? Who are the people that we need to bring in and work with us? How much will these things cost? How will we pay for them? Those are the kinds of details. There needs to be some depth, there needs to be details of these recommendations to make them practical and workable. Municipalities need to think all the way to the point where they've got an action plan that they can carry out, again, when the consultant is out the door. There's a couple of examples here. This is from the Pine Township Comprehensive Plan. And one of the things that you'll see, have you ever seen a comprehensive plan that starts off a major chapter, again, with an issue focus? Our main issue in this chapter is how do we create or maintain tree cover? Our tree cover is a large part of the character of our community, is what they're saying in Pine Township. It starts out with talking points, so that when you have a citizen or one of the elected officials cornered at the grocery store, you can say, we want tree cover because it adds value to our property. You've got a talking point for everybody to help implement.
And this is, quite frankly, one of my favorite things I've seen in a comprehensive plan is starting a chapter and having talking points in it for your planning commission, your other appointed officials, and your elected officials. That's a really cool idea.
The plan. You've got very action-oriented practical steps. You can see here they've outlined 9 specific steps that Pine Township should take. They even checked 3 of them. As they've gone through the planning process, they've actually taken 3 of those steps. Not only did the consultant provide.
And so for you guys that can't see it, the steps that they completed, just so that this kind of gives you a thought process, because this is very much how I want our work sessions to go, where we're digging into things and we're actually working on implementation. They adopted a list of native trees and shrubs suitable for various forests, open space, and greenway locations and conditions. They adopted a planting, so the people in their committee did this, adopted a planting guideline for correct planting techniques and identified pilot project areas. Now again, ours would be completely different because clearly tree cover is not one of our primary concerns. But still, I like the way that this, you build a lot of momentum, and because we know that we're going to be working in the neighborhoods, this is a huge opportunity for us to really create a lot of energy and to create capacity really within our neighborhoods with people who want to be part of this process and volunteer with us.
By the details of the steps, they also provided the resource material to help the township accomplish that step. Step number 7 is to create and adopt an invasive species management plan. I would be sure that for a lot of elected officials and citizens, they wouldn't know where to begin to create an invasive species management plan. What did the consultant team do? In the appendix, they provided an example. They provided a ready-to-use sample of an invasive species management plan that the community could take and either modify for its own use or otherwise take and use to help them manage invasive species. The Pine Township Plan goes all the way to where it provides detailed cost estimates. If our goal is going to be to plant, and I don't remember what their goal was in terms of the number of trees in the next handful of years, but if we're going to do that, how much is that going to cost? What species should we be planting? These kinds of details were all laid out. It was a priority focus area. It was important to the township, and it provided that detailed and workable action plan all the way through to providing a suggestion for how much money would be set aside for a capital plan to do this work over a period of years. The 4th key is to recruit partners and create capacity to implement the plan. The mantra here is that the plan should not be finished until the capacity to implement it is in place. Most of the time in the past, the comprehensive plan would create all of these fantastic ideas and then hope that the capacity to implement them could be created as a follow-up. In the implementable plan approach, that's got to be part of the work you do right from the get-go. When you have work sessions, you need to be recruiting the agencies that can provide resources, that can provide help, the stakeholders that are going to be affected by this. Start recruiting them immediately to help participate in the work sessions, to understand the problem, generate the ideas, and at the end of the line, hopefully commit resources to help implement those ideas. There's all kinds of partners out there in both the public and private sector. There's redevelopment authorities and housing authorities. There are community development corporations in a lot of communities. There are chambers of commerce and business organizations, conservation districts. Again, these are all organizations that in doing the comprehensive plan, a community should recruit early, involve in the process, have them be part of the team building to create that capacity to implement that plan and be in line. And our 5th suggestion, our 5th key for the implementable plan approach is to get community ownership and commitment. Again, that plan is going nowhere if the community is disinterested, if there isn't enough community support to put pressure on the elected officials, whether they stay the same or whether they change in the next election. You want the community excited by this and engaged to the point that they maintain the enthusiasm and the pressure to see that plan implemented. All kinds of wonderful techniques these days to engage the community, to get people excited about doing things, and oh, by the way, as average citizens participate in some kind of active event that the community is holding to get input on the comprehensive plan, and they see that their opinions are being heard, they start lining up to provide help. We hear stories all the time of communities that have engaged their citizenry very actively in the planning. Those citizens become active in the government where they weren't before. They take on roles, they take on responsibilities. Groups of them will take small charges and tasks. And it's important, again, to have feedback loops to ensure that there's buy-in at every step of the way. As a comprehensive plan proceeds, sometimes you can lose your elected officials, or you can lose some of your key agencies. And you need to provide these feedback loop moments where, at the earlier meeting, when we said these were the most significant problems, they see that as a group of alternatives are rolled out, that those alternatives hit those targeted problems as they talked about in an earlier meeting. That the potential partner groups see that their ideas have been maintained to the next point in the plan. The things that they said were heard and now playing a part in the final recommendation that comes out before then that plan actually goes on to be adopted and accepted. That the participants along the way see their input matters. And it does matter in terms of building from a problem to a concept, to an idea, to a recommendation, to an action plan that's committed to in a comprehensive plan. Those are the key principles and 5 steps for undertaking an implementable comprehensive plan. I'm most happy to be of service to any municipality that's...
I'm going to stop it there because Mr. Pupo, though really knowledgeable and very good at what he does, is no longer with DCED. And he's just going to give us his contact information. But, so thoughts from anybody? I just found the link.
How does this follow action plan?
The process is very similar. Lancaster also did an implementable plan.
Okay.
So what they did was they picked the 6 or so big issues that they were able to kind of have rise up from all of their public outreach, and that's what they focused on. So it's the same process, only ours will be different.
Right.
So
I think we've already started that somewhat.
we have.
With the meetings that we went through over the past, well, it was 2019 now. At this point, Jamie was part of those, and
We have.
I think we have that, and that's,
So
I don't think we're starting from nothing.
No, not at all, we're not. And what's really neat when you watch this is right now, just outside of this comprehensive planning process, there are 2 of these here. One's staying up and one's not. The borough's already started down the pathway of branding. So we are implementing things as we go. And Mary, you're right. We do have a whole lot of public outreach that was done, and more than likely what we need to do is review all that public outreach as a group. Because me just seeing it in a paper doc means nothing to me. So think maybe after we can go through demographics in March, and perhaps get into a little bit of that community outreach and feedback then after we review demographics.
I really like the idea of making it reader-friendly.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
So I kind of have a weird question. I know that we're talking about demographics next week or next month, but just so I can be prepared for it, because I do have a couple questions. When we're doing these analysis, do we do it by, do we break it down by cultural or race or age or?
It's kind of a smattering of everything. So what I'm going to do is pull together, and all of the research has already been done. There are a whole bunch of studies that have been done over the last 10 years that pull together census data. And unfortunately, even though it's 2021, we're not going to have the 2020 census data for a little bit yet. So we'll have to update it after the fact. But what I'm going to do is just collate and put all of that information, and it will cover age, race, it'll cover income, it will cover manufacturing aspects, it'll cover pretty much anything and everything. If you can throw it a dart at it, we'll cover it in the demographic information.
And
educational attainment.
Cool. And there's actually one in particular that I was hoping for.
Please.
And that would be what percentage of the community here is on any kind of government assistance program?
Okay.
Just curious what that actual percentage is. Thank you. I
Mhm.
appreciate it.
No, thank you for the feedback, absolutely.
Private information, I mean,
We're not getting social security numbers, we're not getting names, we're not getting any, the information isn't down to the census tract. No, it's not down to the block group. So if it was information that was down at the block group, you could conceivably track down who all those numbers belong to. But all the information that we're gonna get is either gonna be borough specific or census tract specific, so.
I don't need like names or anything. I'm just
We
curious like
can't,
what
I
that
couldn't give it to you
percentage
even if you
is.
wanted. Yep.
Are we still 4 census tracts in the borough?
I haven't looked that up yet, I don't know.
There are multiple census.
Usually when I look at the borough data, it's all coming to me as the borough, and I haven't yet tweezed apart any of the census tracts.
Was at one time that was your basis, like where you could do CDBG money? Was
Correct.
The different census tracts.
Yep, based on low moderate income, you have to be 43.1%.
Yeah.
Is that right still? Something like that, I don't know, of low mod income. Good. Any other questions, comments?
I thought that was a very good thing.
Yeah.
It was good.
Very good, thank you for bringing that.
Sure. I was gonna try and synthesize it, and then I realized, why? He says it perfectly already.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's correct. All right, so any other thoughts, any other feedback from that video? Anything else that you guys would really like to see in our demographic, any analysis, anything that you're interested in knowing? Because that's helpful, that way I won't forget it.
I have a
go ahead, there you go.
I have a question on the video. Do you, like the printed materials of that presentation, do you have that?
Yes, and I can send it out to everybody.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yep, absolutely.
We can see the 5 points, and I think he really touched a lot of bases there. That
Yeah.
would be a big deal in our planning, so.
Yep, I have them all screenshotted, so I can just put them all together in a PDF and send them out to everybody.
Great, thank you.
Jess, I wanted to mention something regarding the census
Mhm.
population. Would you be going by the latest number from the county
In terms of
for
what?
population for the borough? Is there
There's-
consistency that we can look to?
Well, yeah, there's the 2010 and then there's the American Community Survey.
Mhm.
And the county's going to use, we're going to use all the data that the county has is the same data that I'd have access to and the same data that everybody else has used.
So it's all consistent?
It's all consistent, it's all the same.
And to kind of go with what Sharon was saying, and you said it, you can almost break it down by block. Like you can see which parts of which neighborhoods use the most assistance.
I think you can see it by census tract.
Okay.
I don't think we can get block group information.
Okay. I'm just curious because my brain goes. It's okay.
No, absolutely, and I wish, I'll dig into it, but I think for privacy reasons and because the borough's so small, that it'll be census tract related. Census tract block group, is there something smaller than the block group?
No.
I don't think, okay.
No.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna be limited to the
As
census
close as
tracts.
we can get is probably the most
Yes.
useful.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind as we're getting info.
All right, anything else for the good of the order before we move on with the agenda? No? Okay. So next up is us going through these neighborhood maps. I have not changed these maps much, except for the initial review that we did in November with the neighborhood names. I know that there's some work to do, but what I wanted to do was just conserve resources, get everything marked up and do one change at a time. So again, I think this worked out best if we just make this an active exercise and look at these in relationship to the questions that I put on the agenda. And then, Barb, did you have anything? You had said that when you reviewed the notes, who was that for the notes?
Yeah, that was,
Someone who wasn't here.
yeah.
Yes, Jennifer. So was there anything that you wanted to see up on?
I was just able to see, like, as we looked at these, how we could fit transportation into it, and we could fit environment into it, and
Mark, is there anything you wanted to add with regards to the neighborhood?
So I hope you all got the article that I sent around from Bridger, Florida. And when I read that, I realized, yes, that's on a citywide scale, but I think it captures the goals that we're trying to reach here, and that is pride in the neighborhood, pride in who we are. My oldest daughter lives in Philadelphia, and she was in this weekend. And she was talking to somebody else from Philadelphia, and he goes, well, where do you live? And she goes, well, I live in Fishtown. He goes, oh, Fishtown, yes, this. She goes, yeah, but they're changing and doing some stuff. So she doesn't identify with, I'm from the northeast corner of downtown Philadelphia. She identifies with her neighborhood. She identifies with her group of people that she's in. And she took me pictures of the street that she just moved, and I haven't been over there yet. And almost all the houses have fish on the projecting as a small little wall sign, and then underneath is their house number. I thought, well, there you go. They've identified their neighborhood. They are right on the river where the boats came in to the dock and they would unload their fish. So they are Fishtown, and Fishtown is known to be a little artsy, a little eclectic, a little this, that, cool little hipster bars and gastropubs. And that's us. That's who we are in Fishtown. So as we keep moving forward, let's find who our neighborhoods are. Let's get them a DNA, my term. Let's find out who they are, what they want to be when they grow up, as they grow up, as they are growing up now, whatever phrase we want to put on these things, and get them to buy into what they want to see happen in their part of the community. And if you read down through the article, you'll see that one of the key things is people want to be within a certain range from the services they need. So maybe it's bigger than our neighborhoods, but so within a certain commute time, what are the key things that this neighborhood here needs? What do we need access to, and how do we get that? Maybe we can't have everything within this range. Like Uptown may not have a grocery store have this and this, but it's going to be within a reasonable commute time for them to get to. And what are we missing? And then that's when we start saying, okay, what do we need to attract, and where do we need to attract it? So let the community help drive the vision that we want to implement. And when we do this, when the community is behind it, and they get it, and they want to see it happen, then implementation is almost driven by them saying, hey, you said we could have this, when is it coming? Not, I am the government, I'm going to tell you what you need. And when you flip that paradigm, you then have a much easier path forward to get things done and accomplished. So that's the goal that we want to see here. If you guys, you missed it in the very beginning when we were talking with the Planning Commission. This is what we did down, when I worked down in Florida, is the one town I worked in, Lake Grove Beach, their tagline is a city of neighborhoods. And they have 17 defined neighborhoods that then have their own sense of place. They have flags. We even got to the point where we're trying to put crosswalks in and have their neighborhood logos on them. So you knew you were now in this neighborhood, you're now in this neighborhood. And then we overlaid that with historic districts to say, I'm in this neighborhood on the historic side. And they knew exactly where they were and what was going on. And that's what I want to see here. And I think if we can get to that point and get that neighborhood pride and sense of belonging, then I think we've reached a lot of goals here. So, no pressure. 2 weeks, it's good.
We have 12 to 18 months here for command.
Yeah, right?
Rome wasn't built in a day.
What? I
So again, like I said, this is sort of an active exercise. So, or not, you guys can sit there, but I need you to look at the maps and think about the questions that are in the agenda here, or anything else that you can think of. You know, so these maps were initially generated by the Planning Commission in November. And these are the neighborhoods that the Planning Commission was able to come up with. The question I have for you all who have lived in this community for so long is, do they ring true to you?
Do you?
What's the matter?
You want another map, Lauren?
Do you want another map?
No, I thought maybe, since Sharon just moved here, maybe Jamie would want to work with Sharon and I'll work with
That's a fabulous idea.
December.
You don't have, You're the chairperson. Your job is to interrupt me whenever you want to.
I swore I put deodorant on.
So one of the questions I have is, do these neighborhood names ring true to you? The other thing that Barb and Sharon and I talked about was, do we want to keep these names? Are some of these names, do they mean good things to people, or were they just names that kind of came up over time? Is it something that we want to perpetuate?
So one of the other things we looked at too is can we close the gaps?
Yep.
So there's not space between the neighborhoods, but the boundaries line up.
Is there a certain section that you're more familiar with that we can?
And if you guys focus on what you know, on the areas that you've been in.
Do you know, how would you identify this section now today?
You don't want that. So,
And how did it
right,
used to
the
be?
jurisdiction that I
Used
used
to
to
be
be,
different.
you know, obviously.
This was
Because I just remember that.
Yeah, it was pushed down.
Inclusive. This was called Kitchen Town, and I explained it last time. That the kitchens on Main Street were put in front of the house. That's how they got that name, Kitchen.
That is so cool.
But Cora,
Have their neighbor.
Manor neighbors,
And
that's why
or you read about the
I
neighbor.
identified. Well, yeah, a Manor Street guy, but we were, because we all had the Manor Street school.
Yeah, sure.
It's been pretty straight
I
out.
never even thought about that.
I studied, I studied actually with the Cherry Street.
Poet who lived out in Mifflin, maybe that could be called Mifflin. Uptown is always uptown.
Yeah.
You're old timers.
This in here,
That, the area where.
I know. Very rarely go to.
yeah, that's right, yeah,
That
yeah,
was the Mifflin Estate.
And they, G-Mata, wrote a book. The Indians, that could
On my parents'
be
house.
6th Street Indians. Instead of the neighbors, walking to the street. You wouldn't want to see but what do they call it?
That was just all, I mean, that's what, how old is that? How old is it?
That's in
35 years?
1980s. Yeah, 1980s.
All right, so,
That's 35.
all right, yeah, 35, 40, all right.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was important.
Well, here's another.
That was all matter. This whole, this was East End, really.
Yeah.
This is the East End.
So
My concern is, and I think it's a great
I think
idea.
we should have, I think it's good
There's
to
a
have,
lot of
even though this is gonna evolve. It's just
And
gonna.
those people don't have the same, because they come and go, they don't have the same.
Well, I think that's something that has to be in that's comprehensive
I
plan.
would be almost worried about taking those residents that are new to the area that are renting these properties and dividing them even more. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, the idea is great.
Housing.
Because I don't know what the area is, and we accentuate those things, but we also have to consider that the demographic here is very different than it was when those things were there. You know, you don't want to create more
It's a
drama.
divide.
Yeah, I know, well, this is.
Yeah.
But all
Interesting.
It's always fascinating me how West Enfield comes into the 50-yard line at Gladfelder Field. They ought to just buy West Enfield. They should need it Everton. I don't think they get any taxes.
They probably don't.
Are there any, I'm
So
gonna
now
ask
you
you
have my
this,
mind
the
turning.
kitchen guys, you mentioned the kitchen things. Are there any other like areas on this map where you can think of architecturally that the buildings on that particular block have something that's unique to them?
Well,
Because
yeah, there is.
architecturally speaking, there's already so much going on that we can build from here. So we can take things like that and present it, and that might be an interesting way to go.
Good point. Well, Chester Street, they used to, where the mansions are, like in the 400, 500 blocks. I think that was called at one time Millionaire Row, but I'm not sure. Is that? Okay.
You say that?
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I think we should look into those older ideas, as at least architectural. I don't know, I'm new here, so I don't know all of the
People like
history.
Cleve would know that, or my cousin Donnie Fox.
Not even.
Oh,
Where is Cleve?
Plethora
I
of
just spoke to him last
information.
week.
This is
But now they're not identifying any of these
Yeah, I
neighbors.
don't understand that. Why aren't they defining Blunston, Houston,
My idea of these streets would be to,
Founder's Row or something?
yeah, Blunston, Houston,
Houston, right?
right?
Founder's Row.
And have no parking in those streets. Like in, what's the alley in Philadelphia where, is that Founder's Row?
Yeah, what's it called? It'll come to me.
Where Betsy Ross's house is really
Yeah,
close to it.
that's Old City, Society Hill, but there's a Elford Alley.
Okay, yeah, you
Yeah, it's like
can't,
one of
there's no
those-
parking. That would be so quaint.
Yeah.
Now, where would you go to people's cars? Build in the back. I know the borough did a parking study. You might have been at that meeting.
Their family,
And my recommendation, Leo Woods started that somewhere.
They never left. And they
They
never.
should purchase the property on the end, tear it down, raise it, and then use that for neighborhood parking, parallel parking. And it's a start of an idea. But here on, in the South Fifth Street neighborhood, behind that where Stump Avenue is, Avenue J, it's pointed out. There was a fire there several years ago on Perry Street. And when they redeveloped those homes or rebuilt them, the idea was to have parking in the back of those homes for the whole neighborhood. So it would get all that congestion off the street.
I see that.
And
I
it'd
see
be a
that.
nice, just a place for residential
First
traffic.
time home buyer. I see
To walk,
that.
you know, bike or just someone to walk, no vehicular traffic.
What happened to that?
It went away. Actually, that was at Perry Street in the South Fifth Street neighborhood, which I don't understand that. Now, Corn Avenue.
I think South Fifth Street is like all of this here.
Yeah, me too. Now, Corn Avenue and Malt Avenue, I believe that came about because they were breweries.
Yeah, they were
On those streets.
That's near
Yeah.
Five Points.
Yeah.
Where was this?
It's 5 Points. Near five, there were
Yeah, where the
libraries.
Union Station is,
Yeah.
all that 5 points.
Hey guys, in about 5 minutes, we're gonna kick it back to Barb to close out the meeting, and then the planning commission will start up their meeting at 7.
Thank you.
Donnie, do you have a moment to talk afterwards?
I'm here for a meeting with the planning commission.
Okay.
Back to you.
Okay. I just want to get where you plant street trees for Arbor Day. And then if I get together with you for a high level, your plan, you know, nothing specific, just some plan I can take back to the board. Okay, thanks.
So, okay, we're Union Street. I'm sorry, I just had like a
55.
That's 5 Points.
And you said that the street behind it used to be breweries.
Well,
Yeah,
there
4th
were
Street.
breweries in there, but.
Yeah, right on 4th Street.
Right on, yeah.
So,
And it's all limestone under there, so they would, there
Yeah.
were cellars, and they would naturally.
are they still?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Right.
I remember back in the mid-80s, there was a water main break, and all that, the street sunk, the houses off their level, because the water took all the limestone with it.
So you'll notice when you're going, so, when you're going, yeah, when you're going south on, you're going south on Fifth towards the VFW, towards Marion, all the homes are older, and then boom, on the right-hand side, you're gonna see these houses that are about 30, 35 years old. Right in the middle of the block, that's where the sinkhole was from the limestone.
Because I'm thinking like, how could it be if those underground structures were still like, you know what I mean? And they're homes now, they're new homes, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I know.
But,
But you know where Union Station is?
yeah.
It you go in their basement, I don't think it's there now, but underneath the street on Union Street, there was a catacomb. And they used to have beer in there and so forth. They pulled their kegs in.
Cool thing to
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Wow.
There were a lot of
It's called
prohibition kind of for the high bars. Unless you,
As it does.
unless you brewed a near beer.
What's
Then you
that?
had to keep it with
Yeah. Well, my grandfather had a brewery.
Yeah.
And here's a funny story, I'll tell you real quick. Yeah, and the dogs were out.
People, there are pictures of it, people scooping up the
I
beer.
got pictures of that.
We should find out, like, what those structures look like now. And, I mean, I'm sure if the area itself is residential now, it's not gonna matter much as far as zoning is, but wouldn't it be cool to build that back up?
Yeah, that's
with
not
like
attractive.
distilleries and
So,
you know what I mean?
right?
Uh-huh.
Industrial.
I mean, if we're trying to take the history and the architecture that's already here, it's really
One of the reasons why I let
building
them
around, because we're already doing the, like, the architecture part every year, that's growing every year. So like, there's just more and more and more that we can build here.
Yeah.
And these are
Oh, I'm
areas we
you're,
should be
yeah,
like,
it's a little slow.
into that.
Here,
Yeah,
do you
there
want
were
to
a
take
lot
your
of homes that were changed.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you guys to close up your conversation. And I'll take the max, we'll get Yes, yes, good. You're the- I'll take this Thank you for your input. Jessica, our next meeting, we're gonna talk about economic development.
No, our next meeting, we're gonna do demographics, and, we'll continue the, what did I say we were gonna do? Demographics, and, we're gonna go through the, community survey comments.
Community survey comments, okay. So, our next meeting is March, when is the next meeting? March 15th. March 15th, here at 6 o'clock. So this meeting is adjourned at 6:58. Yes,
Yeah,
it's
this,
amended.
I didn't mark it up, but it's in my, I've marked it
Thank you
up.
all very much. You all have a good to see you again.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Jack, we just need to get down.